Hi, Julie. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Kathryn. So happy to be here.
We're going to talk about generating curiosity today, and it's a topic that can go in so many different directions when it comes to recovery because it is a very powerful emotion. I don't know if you'd call it an emotion. What would you call curiosity?
No. I think curiosity is absolutely an emotion. It's a state of being, but I think it's also an emotion. And actually, the reason I wanted to call this podcast today generating curiosity or activating curiosity is because, I always talk about the fact that we have thoughts and those thoughts create emotions. And so we can generate emotions through our thinking. And so, yeah, I really wanted to talk about the power of curiosity and how we can harness it.
Yeah, because it's an emotion that allows us, I think, to see things in a new way. It allows us to get in touch with maybe what we really want and need. It allows us to have a more expansive mindset.
Yes, exactly. Curiosity is expansive. And just like the podcast we did months ago on gratitude, curiosity is one of those very expansive emotions. And the beautiful thing about coaching and about the tools that we use is that, we have thoughts and those thoughts generate emotions. And so we're calling this generating curiosity because we can harness the power of curiosity through our thoughts. And when we are in that expansive place, when we are curious, which is the opposite of criticism and shame and judgment, we can get curious. We can learn from the wisdom of our urges. We can learn from the wisdom of learning moments when we overeat or binge. When we stay open and curious, it's this beautiful tool that can help us move forward.
Yeah, because I think the tendency is to become rigid, is to criticize, is to turn to that place where you really have a very harsh mindset toward yourself. Whereas curiosity, it's like, I wonder why this is going on. When it comes
Exactly.
to how you're eating, when it comes to your weight, when it comes to urges, like you mentioned, it's just a way to shift your mindset to a place that you become much more self-caring, I think.
Yeah. I mean, if you think about conversations that you have with other people, right? If you're with somebody and they're really open to you and they're asking you questions and they want to get to know you, right? You have this feeling of being cared for, exactly what you just said a minute ago, right? You feel relaxed. There's this co-regulation that's going to happen between you and that other person. You're going to be open to talking. You're going to be discovering insights about yourself. They're going to be discovering insights versus a person who's like on their cell phone, completely checked out, or like, what the hell's wrong with you? What did you do that for? Right? It's completely shut down. And wow, the way that like when I used to binge, the way that I talked to myself, there was no openness, there was no curiosity, there was no place to go with that harsh tone. It was complete shutdown, complete resistance. There's a quote by Fred Rogers that I'd love to bring up here, which is listening is where love begins. And Fred Rogers, I mean, my one of my favorite people, but like that idea, like listening with curiosity, will add, is where love begins.
Yeah.
Such a different state.
Yeah, it's really a beautiful sentiment. And we all can feel it when it comes to others, but a lot of times we're not good at translating that to ourselves. So when we
That's
start
right.
listening to ourselves, when we start becoming curious, yeah, that's where we can begin the process of self-love. And
Yeah.
and as we know, you don't have to have perfect self-love to stop binging, but when you turn to that place where you're curious and you're listening to yourself, it actually helps you toward change. A lot of
Yep.
people think, oh, how I change is criticizing myself and really getting that self-discipline, but that's not really the road to change, as we've
No.
seen over and over.
No, yeah, not at all. Not at all. In fact, it's a surefire way to block change, right? We cannot hate ourselves into changing. We cannot whip ourselves, beat ourselves, force ourselves into change at all. It's never worked, it never will, and it's often what stops people in their tracks.
Yeah.
So yeah, that whole idea of like, I'm going to get curious, I'm going to stay open. And, for those who bristle at the idea of like, I can't love myself into change. Okay, fine. Can you get curious? Can you curious
Mhm.
yourself into change? And not that that's a verb, but like use the word curious. I can
Yeah.
be curious instead of critical. Doesn't
Yeah.
have to be loving, but I can be curious and stay open.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
And just maybe as a specific example, when it comes to, let's say, the way you feel about your body, you may not be, oh, I love my body, but maybe you could think, what's my body trying to tell me? Or like, I wonder what would feel good to my body. I wonder what sort of exercises
Yes.
would make me feel good. I wonder what food would make my body feel good. So it's kind of a way, yeah, if people are more resistant to that self-love and real self-care, curiosity is a step toward that feels more doable.
Exactly, exactly. And, since Brain Over Binge is about eating adequately and then dismissing or expecting and allowing urges, I think it's really important to get a little bit more concrete here about how to activate or generate curiosity in these moments around food and around urges. Right away, I'm going to say off the bat, and I'm sure you've seen this in coaching too. People want to know, what should I eat? How should I eat? What do I need to do? And I always say, I can't tell you. I can't tell you because I'm not in your body, right? You need to get curious, put your researcher hat on. You are your own best expert. I wonder if I treated myself as if I were my own best expert. I wonder what foods I love that love me back. I wonder what amounts of foods keep me full. I wonder what foods give me great energy and keep me going throughout the day, right? I wonder. And then also, like with learning moments, which is again, a moment where you're overeating, or even if you binge, it's going, I wonder what happened there. I wonder where it flipped from being an amount of food that loved me back to an amount of food that doesn't love me back. I wonder where that point was. I wonder where there were choice points where I could have made a different choice. Because again, I did a lesson with the group a long time ago called Stages of Change. And people want to think that, oh, I learned brain over binge and boof, that's it. Eat adequately, dismiss urges, I'm done. I'm never going to binge again. But learning moments happen. So that expectation of perfection, we take it out and we remember that usually in the beginning, it's after you've binged that you're able to then get curious, figure out what happened, and make some tweaks. But if you don't get curious, can't get anywhere.
Yeah. Yeah. Because then you're going to flip into that guilt and really fall into that shame cycle and beating yourself up. And that doesn't really help you when the next urge arises. Whereas if you look at it and think, okay, what thought did I believe? What thought led me to binge? You can recognize it next time. Or maybe where was I under eating? Was I inadvertently restricting? Did I put my body back in that survival state? How can I add more food in a way that makes me feel good and nourishes me?
Mm,
So, yeah, you get curious about those two recovery goals of eating adequately and dismissing urges and figure out like where you're kind of misstepping. And if you see it, like you said, as a learning moment and you move forward and you take the lesson and you can improve the next time an urge comes up.
exactly, exactly. And then getting to urges in terms of like the beauty of curiosity with urges, an urge arises a lot of times. The number one emotion I see people having around urges is fear. Fear. Oh my God, why is this happening? What's wrong with my brain? My brain is broken. This is too hard. And that shuts people down. It generates all this resistance. They actually go into fight or flight. Their amygdala is firing, so they don't have access to their prefrontal cortex because it's like an on off switch. And so start to breathe, hands on your heart, calm down, generate that curiosity. Hmm, where is that urge? Where is it in my body? What does it feel like when I'm having an urge? Is there tension in my throat? Is there some tension in my chest? Is it in my belly? What does it feel like to have an urge? Go inside, get curious. Though, like, ask yourself some questions. Just start asking questions. Breathe, calm down. Notice, oh, I'm kind of afraid here. Let me breathe. Let me breathe. And let me get curious.
Yeah, that's so powerful because I think a lot of times as I teach, you binge to make the urge go away because the urge feels so uncomfortable. It's really you're binging to cope with that urge and all the emotions it's bringing up and all that fear and all that anxiety that's driving you toward the food. And when you binge, it can give you this temporary relief that the urge goes away. But as we know, that just perpetuates the cycle. It makes you feel awful. You're stuck with all the consequences of the binge. So binging in response to the urge is what we don't want to be doing. But like you said, if you have so much fear and so much anxiety, it can be so tempting to want to binge to make that all go away. But when you can look at these reactions you're having with curiosity and think, I wonder what would happen if I didn't binge. I think that's a big thing
Mm-hmm.
you can ask yourself because you sometimes have thoughts, oh, this is never going to go away. I'm going to have this urge. It's never going to phase out, but it does. And I think developing a mindset of like, I wonder what it would feel like if I stayed with this urge for another 5 minutes. I wonder if what it would feel like if I stayed with this urge for another 10 minutes. I wonder when this urge might go away. I wonder what I could do during this urge that might help care for myself, that might help me, even distract myself a little bit. I think the urge is never quite as bad as your brain tells you it is, but a lot of times it takes having curiosity to realize that because your brain will say, you
Yeah.
can't possibly
Yeah.
deal with this. But what if you thought, I wonder if I could deal with this? I wonder if dealing with this urge is much better than dealing with the consequences of the binge.
Exactly. You know, and I mean, again, like all of those wonderings, right? I wonder why I'm having this urge right now in this moment. I wonder what this urge is about. I wonder what's happening. Oh, yeah. Urges are just a reward pathway in my brain that I've been practicing over and over again. I wonder if I treat this urge as an opportunity instead of something to fear. I wonder how I could be really kind to myself in this moment.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a really powerful shift to make. And to get back to the eating adequately piece too, like I wonder if maybe I need to add some food to my day because
Okay.
urges, while you never need to binge in response to them, sometimes they are a signal that, hey, your body is deprived of food and you need to
That's
figure out
right.
how to add more food in normal amounts throughout your day and not follow the urge with a binge, but follow the urge with making some nourishing changes to the way you're eating.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And even to that point, I noticed that I'm having urges every night and they're really strong. Okay. Am I eating enough during the day?
Mhm.
Right? Like I wonder if I should ask for some coaching help around that. Like
Yeah.
if you're in the group or like that's a great area where it's like I wonder what's going on here. And I also want to say like there's some cautions to everybody of reactions to urges not to have, right? So, like, notice judgment and resistance when you say things like, I wish this would go away, or when you have like excuses or rationalizations like, I deserve this, like, or emotions of annoyance or anxiety or like feeling defeated. Like, those are all things that are the opposite of curiosity. They're going to shut you down, right? That rigidity, the gripping, the tightness. Like if you notice yourself, because if people are like, well, I don't know what fear feels like, right? Again, it's that tightness, it's that gripping, where you feel all consumed by the urge. Those are the moments to go, oh, I wonder why I'm having a fear response right now. Let me breathe. Let me calm down. I wonder what would happen if I just took a breath.
Mhm. Yeah, because a lot of times just getting that pause allows you to connect back with your higher brain and allows you to step into that version of yourself that knows that binging is the last thing that you want or need.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like, the more you start to pay attention and give yourself the gift of curiosity instead of criticism and judgment, the more you're going to start to trust yourself because you're going to see that you have your own back no matter what arises.
Yeah.
And that's really important because I think part of the thing about eating disorders is that we're so cruel to ourselves after having a learning moment, after overeating, after binging. We're so cruel to ourselves. That's terrifying, right? That like we're the scariest, like the way we treat ourselves after a binge. And so if over and over again you show yourself, oh, I just get curious now, I've stopped beating myself up. Instead, I pay attention. I trust myself. I ask myself loving questions. What's going on? What do you need? Where is that urge? Why is that arising right now? Am I hungry? Am I stressed? What's going on for me? What do I need right now? As we give ourselves that loving attention, right? Actually listening with love, with curiosity, right? Then they start to quiet.
Yeah.
The urges start to quiet, our trust in our ability to feed ourselves grows, all of it.
Yeah. I think it really helps too when you have strong patterns that your urges are connected to different things in your life, like stress, you've mentioned. And you can get curious, like, hey, I wonder what would it be like if I just had the stress without following that with a binge? I wonder how I could show up differently for myself,
Mm,
for the people in my life,
mm,
if I didn't follow this urge that comes in response to stress. And you could do that with any situation that urges tend to get connected to. I wonder if I could avoid a binge no matter what. And
that's
that
right.
also goes for the way you eat. I wonder if I could overeat a little sometimes and still not binge. I wonder what that would feel like to just kind of sit with that discomfort. I wonder
Yeah,
what it would feel like if I could eat some foods that normally trigger a binge and again sit with the discomfort of that, and what would that feel like, and not follow that with a binge. So you can do it, you can use curiosity around any patterns that you have that are connected to binging.
yes. Yes, absolutely. I love that. I love that. And the other thing is getting curious after. In that example, that beautiful example you gave, like, I wonder what would happen if I didn't eat in response to stress. And then I wonder what else I could do in response to stress,
Mm-hmm.
right? I wonder what's available to me when I don't eat in response to stress. And then solidifying that for yourself, going, go me, right? Celebrate those moments, celebrate being curious, and then seeing, oh, I didn't eat in response to stress. I had more resources available to me. I want to repeat that for myself. I can do that. I can have an uncomfortable emotion like stress. I cannot eat. And then I see I have other tools available to me when I do that.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah, and to be able to make that shift to use those other tools, you have to be able to be with that urge. You have to be able to get curious about that urge and not respond to it. And
Yep,
then, yeah, the whole world opens up to you on the other side as far as ways that you can cope, ways that you can show up, ways that you can be authentic and just do what you want to do in the world without the binging holding you back.
exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, last thing I want to mention is we've talked a lot about self-trust, and a lot of times this curiosity and self trust comes in when we think of ways to get support in recovery, when we think of ways to help ourselves, when we think of, the types of tools we may need. Because a lot of times we think, okay, I have to do this, this, and this, but it is different for everyone, and everyone needs different things at different times in their recovery. So that's something you can get curious about. Like, hey, I wonder what form of support might help me right now, whether that's coaching, whether that's seeing a nutritionist, whether that, of course, we always want you to get any medical help you need. But yeah, I mean, what ways do you see curiosity coming up in relation to getting help in recovery?
Yeah, I mean, great point. I think again, it's that having openness to finding your formula for support, right? Like you need to find your own formula for eating, for movement, for all of those things. And then it's also about getting curious and saying, I wonder where I'm at in my journey and what's going to work best for me and being open to that. So just because you see stories on Instagram about a person doing it one way, just because something works for one person doesn't mean it's going to work for you. And so staying open and also staying open to the idea that just because you tried something in the past that maybe didn't work, you can see it with fresh eyes. I wonder if I try this again in a new way. I wonder, and the other thing that I want to say also is um this idea of like it's never too late, right? So a lot of people will say, oh, forget it, like I've been doing this for so long, I'm the one it doesn't work for, I must be broken. And so staying open to like, I wonder if it's not too late for me. I wonder if I've always been spiraling up and everything I tried along the way, I wonder what I can pull from the things I've tried that have worked, and then what can I add to it now? What can I add to it now that might make a difference?
Yeah. and seeing maybe are you someone who does want that group support and that community of people encouraging you,
Yes.
whereas we have the group
Come join
as
us.
well, or you're someone who wants that more one-on-one support, or you're someone who likes the online learning. I mean, we have the course, but not just our things. What else has helped you in the past? What else can you use to your
That's right.
advantage now that can take you toward where you want to go?
Absolutely. Love it.
Yeah.
Love
Well,
it.
thank
So
you so
good.
much, Julie. This was a great conversation about curiosity.
Thanks, Kathryn.